Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Mr. Zombie here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 16, the finale of What If Deku Was a Nomu. That's right, everybody, we're in series finale territory now. Woohoo! So sit back, relax, and get ready. You're in for a treat. So, we begin. Mirio and Toya managed to dodge the giant's burst of speed and save themselves from the harsh fate of being crushed. The Beast Man glared at them both with incalculable hatred. On the giant's shoulders, Wolfram and Kurogiri awaited their master's orders.
I have been patient for too long. My plans have been utterly dashed. The seeds I've sown, the blood, the resources, wasted by a brat and a traitor. I've had to take this large body instead of the one I've cultivated. And for that, I will burn your world to the ground!
The giant lifted his fist in the air, tensing them, then slammed him into the ground, sending out shockwaves which turned into earthquakes. Heroes and villains were sent flying, or buried alive. Only those who could fly and were strong enough to save themselves were spared. The dust and debris kicked up into the air, forming a cloud of haze that covered miles, veiling those within it, blinding the helicopters above.
Kurogiri, be the end to all those that have followed my detractor. And you, Wolfram, make sure no heroes leave this place alive. I want no survivors. This is no longer a battlefield, but a mass entombment for those foolish enough to act against me.
Wolfram cracked a wicked grin, while Kurogiri gave a simple bow. Wolfram summoned as much metal to him as possible before activating the quirk amplifying device he'd recently stolen. With the press of a button, his muscles expanded and his quirk grew in power. He created bullets out of the metal he manipulated and fired aimlessly into the crowd. Kurogiri's body expanded and took the shape of a black hole, after which the cloud villain began to suck up anyone unfortunate enough to be in his path. The screams of hero and villain alike filled the air well after the cloud of destruction faded. It was a living nightmare for most, who were powerless to defend themselves, but those who could had come to a non-verbal agreement and took action. Gene Fiber began to wrap around Wolfram as a beaten up Best Genius became visible as the dust settled. Glaring at the villain, the number 3 hero tightened his hold on the villain. Wolfram laughed and flexed his pulsing muscles and snapped the fibers holding him in place. Gonna take more than that, poser! Wolfram taunted. The villain then created 10 massive cubes of steel and threw them at the hero below him. Fortunately enough for the stylish hero, the combined strength of Mirko, Izuku, and Chimera were enough to punch through the cubes, narrowly saving his life. Ugh, this is what I get for complaining about not getting enough action, Mirko spat.
Yeah, guess this is the storm after the calm,
Chimera huffed. Seems so, big guy, Mirko replied with a smirk. She looked towards Izuku. How you feeling, Mike Jr.? Think you can keep up and take this guy down? Izuku's eyes darkened as he glared up at Wolfram. I'm fine right now. I'm a little bit weaker than you, senpai, but if I transform into my Kraken form, I should be dozens of times stronger. The only problem with it is that I have problems stopping myself once I have my target in my sights. Mirko raised a brow, her interest piqued. She gave him a nudge. Then consider my permission granted. Get a lock on that guy and get ready to kick some ass. You too, big guy. Bring out that monster muscle. Mirko then pointed out from the distance where Hawks, Crust, and Wash were fighting Kurogiri and got Genius's attention. Yo, Best Genius, go help them out. Leave this guy to the brawlers. Reluctant, but trusting her logic, Best Genius left to aid the other comrades. In the meantime, Deku had become as black as ink, and his muscles pulsed with power. This was his Nomu form perfected by the Hero Public Safety Commission. Chimera now stood at 10 feet in height, with muscle fibers covering his arms and legs. Mirko's face split into a wicked grin. Alright boys, let's kick some ass! Deku was the first to move. His enhanced strength gave him the ability to jump high enough to put him within swinging distance of Wolfram. The teen had moved so fast, the villain barely had time to defend himself. Wolfram managed to capture the teenager and steal, and attempted to crush the hero. But Izuku was strong enough to resist even with the villain's quirk enhanced. While Wolfram was preoccupied with Izuku, Mirko closed the distance, using the bits of metal the villain levitated as platforms. She managed to land an axe kick that sent the villain plummeting into the ground, where Chimera waited. The wolf villain turned anti-hero fired a condensed blast of energy at his shared enemy, which scored Wolfram's skin. Wolfram's rage bubbled to the surface as he called all the free metal he could to himself. In a burst of fury, Wolfram shot hundreds of steel spikes at Mirko and Chimera. Using her impressive dexterity, the rabbit heroine bobbed and weaved between as much of the assault as possible. Eventually, the barrage became too much for her, and as she closed her eyes to welcome her end, a webbed hand pulled her near. It was Izuku. A translucent shell formed around his body, which he used to shield his senior hero. The two crashed, hitting the ground hard in a plume of dust. Mirko moved with a groan, shaking the dust off her. She reached a hand down to grab Izuku. Holy shit! You okay, kid? Mirko paused and had to fight her instincts to stay near Izuku. It wasn't his face, his flaring gills, or his rows of jagged teeth. It was his look of murderous intent on his face that made her feel like she was in a volatile situation. She smacked. Get a hold of yourself. You're not done yet. Got it? She got through to him. Izuku nodded and took her hand. Good. Got any ideas? Izuku pointed at his head.
His crown!
Izuku said as he realized his altered Nomu voice had returned.
It's making him stronger. I can short circuit if I can get close enough with my siren quirk.
Mirko smiled. Sounds good. Let's get you that opening. But first, let's check on the big guy. As soon as Mirko said that, Chimera emerged from a pile of rubble and started firing off massive blasts of energy at Wolfram, who was guarded with shields made of steel. Okay, we're in luck. I'll back you up, Might Jr., but you gotta make it count.
Yes, ma'am.
The duo charged in the direction of their distracted opponent at full speed. Deku took a deep breath, and when they were finally noticed, Mirko cleared the way for her junior by punching and kicking away at Wolfram's metal constructs. Before he knew what was happening, Izuku jumped from behind Mirko and took a hold of him and screamed with the force of a bomb. Ah! The villain screamed in pain, but it was overpowered by Deku's own high-pitched wail. The quirk enhancement device on Wolfram's head was fried, causing him to shrink without its power. Weakened and momentarily helpless, Mirko took advantage and threw a roundhouse kick at the villain's skull. Wolfram was sent flying through the air, in time for Chimera to send one last intensity blast at him, shooting him out of the air. The trio had won, just as the others had apprehended Kurogiri. However, before they could celebrate, All For One sent them all flying with a stomp of his massive feet. It wasn't as bad as the initial blast, but the wind had been taken from the sails of most. Exhausted and battered, Mirko lost consciousness with a smile on her face. Izuku put her on his back to evacuate her. Chimera, who witnessed this, swore silent revenge. Meanwhile, Mirio and Dabi were doing all they could to stop All For One's rage-fueled rampage. Mirio managed to retain the villain's arms using Black Whip, but try as he might, he was unable to stop the ancient villain's destruction. Adding to his worries was none other than Dabi. The flame villain took every shot he could at him, while also trying to take down All For One. Lemillion was locked in a three-way deathmatch, where he was the only one trying not to kill. Mirio cursed as All For One thrashed against the restraints caused from his Black Whip quirk. Mirio was losing his grip, and to make matters worse, Dabi resurfaced and shot a bright stream of fire in his and All For One's direction. On reflex, Mirio turned intangible and sunk into the ground, while All For One retaliated with another world-shaking punch. What is wrong with you? Mirio yelled out at Toya. I thought you wanted to make this world a safer place. All For One is killing good people, with families and loved ones, while you keep trying to kill me. How selfish and stupid could you possibly be? Is this your justice? Mirio's rant was cut short, as he was sent flying from the force of one of All For One's fists. Unbeknownst to Mirio, his words had stricken his shell-shocked rival to his core. After killing his father, Dabi wasn't the same. Even though he hated him, even after the suffering he'd caused him, a part of him bore regret. At first, it felt good to Dabi, seeing the shock on his father's face before he had been frozen solid. But after he'd shattered, Dabi felt empty. He spent so much of his life trying to prove his father wrong that he lost touch with himself after killing Endeavor. He'd realized that in the end, all he wanted was to prove that his existence was worth something. But in the end, all he'd done was rob himself of what he spent his life building towards. So here he was, abandoning reason and wildly attacking the two that stood before him.
Shut up, you hero trash!
Toya lashed out with streams of blue flames erupting from his palms. He tried to fry both All For One and Mirio to poor results. Mirio turned intangible and All For One walked through the flames unharmed. The hand of the giant took hold of the pyromancer and slowly began to crush him in his palm.
Well, well, well. If it isn't the practical usurper. Seems you found yourself in a bind. Here, let me help.
Toya howled in agony as his bones snapped and impaled his organs. His regeneration quirk was being overwhelmed, and his vision was turning black. Toya Todoroki was dying at the hands of the man he promised himself he'd be better than.
You thought you could replace me, that you could inherit my throne? Ha! I spit on the notion and audacity, boy. You have no plans, nor vision to bring forth any meaningful changes. You've wasted an army, killed your father, and for what? Shallow revenge. Tomura might have been immature, but you lack long-term goals. A selfish and utter waste of life is all you amounted to. Die!
Dabi let out a pitched scream as he felt his insides and bones being crushed. He closed his eyes. But when all hope seemed lost, a yell snapped him out of his torment. Power! Mirio yelled out, crushing the massive jaw All For One's new body with a Detroit smash powered up to 100%. The Titan staggered and lost balance for an instant, allowing the blonde hero to rescue Dabi. While the giant recovered, Mirio took the time to put as much space as possible between them and All For One.
What the hell? You rescued me? Why?
Dabi asked while his body was regenerating. Because I can't take him down alone, and I'm tired of losing people to this guy's rampage. Dabi spat out a clump of blood.
Okay, I can respect that. But even with us working together, we can't take him down. He's been playing with us this entire time.
Doesn't matter! If he wins, he'll kill everyone here and anyone else he feels like he has to just to get his message across. If you meant anything you said, anything you stand for, this is a fight you can't back out of. Dabi looked up at Mirio for a moment and saw All Might standing in the blonde's place.
Well, there are worse ways to die. Might as well try out this thing I've been working on.
Toya rose to his feet and dusted himself off. Alright, let's go. A horn grew from Dabi's forehead, while Mirio dialed One For All to 100%, making his bones rattle.
Huh? You're running out of steam too? Guess I'm not the only one.
Mirio stole a glance at Dabi and noticed his body beginning to grow pale.
Seems like it. Try not to die on me out there.
Mirio said as a trickle of sweat traveled down his forehead.
You too,
Dabi said with honest respect for his rival. In the time they had this conversation, All For One tripled in size, rivaling that of a skyscraper, and covered himself in stone armor. Fear and anxiety took hold of the duo's hearts as they gave their all for their last stand. Dabi took the lead, launching himself in the air like a rocket. He circled around the massive villain, firing off balls of flame and ice. Unfortunately, all that did was annoy the giant. Lemillion managed to crack and chip away at the stone armor, but beyond that, no long-lasting damage. Mirio had always been optimistic, but even as he felt a sense of hopelessness, both he and Dabi were sent flying back, landing in nearby craters. The two looked up at each other and shared their despair. It seemed like all was lost until the giant stopped and started hollowing in pain. All For One scratched at his back in an attempt to shake the cause off, but his mask kept him from being able to reach. The stone armor began to peel off as it began to shrink. After all the villain thrashing, a figure became visible. It was Izuku Midoriya in his Nomu form. He had stabbed his arm into the center of All For One's back, filling the villain's body with venom.
Get off me, you insect!
All for One managed to grab the source of his pain.
You!
All for One boomed in righteous fury. His anger was cut short by Mirio's right hand. A full-powered smash stunned the man, causing his grip to loosen. Izuku escaped on his own while Mirio took full advantage and pounded away at the villain's face. Behind him, Dabi charged up a new super move. "Get out of my way if you don't want to die!" Dabi warned, causing Deku and Mirio to run away. "Flash fire! Flames of Prometheus!" Dabi yelled as white fire shot from both of his hands and engulfed All for One. What made these so dangerous wasn't the intense heat, but its fusion with Ares' quirk that caused him to burn and age their victim rapidly and simultaneously. When the flames died down, a petrified skeleton was all that remained of the former ruler of the underworld. Giganto Machina and All for One were no more. Dabi nearly collapsed from the exhaustion. It'd taken almost everything he had to pull that off, but it wasn't over just yet, as Mirio walked up to the exhausted villain. "So, where do we go from here?" "Well, you are going behind bars," Mirio answered. No. Can't let that happen now. But for what it's worth, you were right. I lost sight of what it was I wanted to do. We'll be meeting again. Dabi disappeared in a burst of purple smoke and reappeared next to Compress, who was holding a fistful of marbles. The masked man gave a courteous bow, and the two left together in a portal. Mirio sighed. It was finally over. They lost many lives, but for now, no one else would be hurt. His predecessor Deku approached him in his normal form and smiled. "Mirio, we did it. We won. It's time to go home." Oh wait, hey, I have something here for you. It's your phone. Thanks for letting me make that call. I needed it. It was a bittersweet victory for the heroes, but still a victory. Of all the people there, Izuku was amongst the most anxious. When they made it back to base, there were dozens of people waiting for them both. Uraraka was the first to give him a hug. It took her nearly 5 minutes to let go of her boyfriend, as she showered him with kisses. Deku's friends berated him, while simultaneously celebrating his return. Inko and All Might hung back and fought their tears. They were proud, and happy he had returned to them in one piece. As for Deku, he lived out the rest of his short life, with his loved one as a hero, husband, and father. In the end, he lived the life he always wanted, with the people he cared for, being the man, being the hero he always wanted to be. The end. Thank you all for indulging yourselves to the end of this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before this video ends. Firstly, we got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We the Celestials Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. So go check it out if you're in the mood for some jujitsu action. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everybody involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here on We the Celestials, then I would like to extend out an invitation for you to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits. We're always looking for more members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have a great day.